Yes, you can enjoy a moist, flavorful carrot cake, and with my recipe, you won't hate yourself the next morning. My carrot cake squares are gluten-free and made without any white flour or processed white sugar. They're anti-inflammatory, easily digestible, and naturally sweet. And as a bonus at the end of this video, I'll show you a sugar comparison between a traditional carrot cake and my healthier version. We're going to begin by prepping our pan, and I'm just using a 10 by 10 square. You could also use two 6-inch rounds. And I do like to line it with parchment paper. It just makes it so much easier to get the cake out of the pan. I'm always paranoid that my cake is going to get stuck in the pan. So the quickest way I have found to line my pan is to simply fold up one side of the parchment paper to make it nice and square. And then I'm going to rest my pan on top of it and line up the bottom edge. And then just make a quick little crease on the other side, the pan out of the way, and then line up those straight edges on either side and make a fold. And then we'll turn it upside down, center it, scoosh it down in, just with my finger, give it little score lines. And then we'll loosely wrap it up and over the side, give it another fold, and loosely wrap it up and over the other side and give that a fold. Then we'll take our non-stick spray and give it a light spray, making sure to get right down in that crease, and it's ready to go. Next, we're going to prep our ½ cup of raisins, and I like using the golden raisins because they really coordinate with the carrot cake colors. But we want to moisten them up a little bit more to really add moisture to our cake. And I have found that as they get some moisture, they get larger. And so when you're trying to cut your cake after it's been baked, that your knife can push down on those large raisins, and then it can kind of tear your cake a little bit, and you don't get as clean of a cut. So I found that a way to avoid this is to simply slice them into smaller pieces before I put them in the cake. So I'm just going to dump them out onto my little cutting board here. And then with a nice sharp knife, I'm just going to go in and slice them into smaller pieces. And they do want to kind of stick to the knife, but that's okay. We'll just keep cutting through them. And now that we have them cut into smaller chunks, we want to add a little more moisture to really bring out their flavor. So I'm going to just put them into a bowl and then cover them with hot tap water. And then I'll let them soak until I'm ready to put them into the cake. So here's our raisins just soaking in some hot tap water, so we'll set those aside. Next, we're going to prep our coconut. And again, like the raisins, I like to have them shredded into much smaller pieces so that they're easier to cut through your cake, and I think a little bit easier to eat. So I'm going to dump them into the chopper cup that comes with my immersion blender. And then taking this really nifty little lid, screw that on, turn it to high speed, and then just pulse it a few times. All right, now we have some finely chopped coconut. Next, we're going to prep our carrots, and we'll start by quickly peeling them. And I love using this vegetable peeler. I think they call it a shark, but it's just got nice sharp teeth and makes it so quick and easy. And to make it a little bit easier on our chopping cup, we're going to go ahead and cut off the ends. And then we're going to cut these down into about 1-inch pieces. And you will be so impressed how quickly this shreds these carrots. There we go. So within just a few seconds, we have our finely shredded carrots. And now we'll make our cake and start with a medium-sized mixing bowl. We're going to start with our wet ingredients. So we'll begin with 2 eggs and ½ cup of maple syrup, 1/3 cup of unsweetened applesauce, just adding another natural sweetener, 1/4 cup of milk, and I'm using almond milk, 1/4 cup of oil, and my favorite is extra virgin light olive oil. And to really brighten up the flavors in our cake, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And for flavor, we'll add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And I like to add 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract. Again, I think it just adds a really nice flavor and a little bit of an aroma. That smells so good. And now we'll simply whisk those together until our eggs are well incorporated. And now we'll add our dry ingredients. And we're going to start with 1.5 cups of almond flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And for our delicious spice blend, I have 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, I have 1/2 teaspoon of dried ginger, and then I have 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. I can already smell those flavors coming together. Now we'll gently whisk those together just until they're all combined. And now we can add in our ingredients that we already prepped, which is our 1/4 cup of shredded coconut and 3 medium carrots. That looks so fresh and bright. And then we want to drain our raisins that have now plumped up from the hot water. There, just drain those in the sink. Now we'll add those to our bowl. And at this point, it's a little bit easier to just mix it together with a spatula so you don't get all those chopped up ingredients mixed up in your whisk. So we'll just mix until those ingredients are just barely incorporated. We don't want to overmix. So now we'll go ahead and pour our batter into our prepared pan. We want to use our spatula and just make sure all the batter goes out to all 4 corners. And then we'll take our pan and give it a few taps on the counter just to release any air bubbles and to evenly spread out the batter. Now this will go into a 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes or until you see the edges just slightly starting to brown and your toothpick comes out clean. Cream cheese frosting is one of my favorites, and I was so excited when I found a way to make it without using powdered sugar. And I love making it a little bit light by adding in some whipping cream. Let's pour 1 cup of whipping cream into our bowl here. And then I'm going to use the whisk that comes with my immersion blender. And we'll set that to high, and then we'll just mix this until it turns into a nice fluffy whipped cream. There we go. We have those nice stiff peaks of our whipped cream. So now we can set that aside. Now in a second bowl, I'm going to add our room temperature block of cream cheese. That is a happy sight. And now I just want to whip this cream cheese to get it light and fluffy before I add them together. There we go. That only took a few seconds. To sweeten this frosting, we're going to use a natural sweetener, which is maple syrup. So I'm just going to add 1/4 cup of maple syrup. And to add a little flavor, we'll add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then just to give it a little kick of flavor and brighten it up, we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of lemon juice. Now we'll mix this together. Now the maple syrup will add a little bit of a beige tint to your frosting that you wouldn't get if you were using powdered sugar, but I am totally okay with that. And now we're going to add in our whipped cream. Just take a spatula, add all this in. Now I don't want to overmix this and break down our whipped cream, so I'm just going to mix just until it looks like it's well incorporated. I'll actually turn our speed down just a little bit as well. There we go. Oh, that looks fantastic. Now for the pinky test. That is so delicious. I get the cream cheese and the little bit of the lemon, giving it that really yummy slight sour. I don't know, is sour a word? Honestly, I could just take a spoon and go to town on this. So here is our carrot cake, which baked for 45 minutes, and you can see it just has this beautiful golden orange color to it. And I took it out of the oven and let it cool on my counter, and then I went ahead and put it into my refrigerator until it was completely cool. So now we can go ahead and pour our cream cheese frosting on top of it. Oh, this looks so good. And I love having a nice thick layer of frosting on my cakes. And this frosting will not be too heavy or rich because we added the whipping cream to it, and it's not overly sweet from having too much powdered sugar in it. So we'll go ahead and spread this around, making sure it goes out to all the edges. You can't do this without smiling. Look at that frosting. Now that we've spread our frosting, I'm going to put this into the freezer, and then we can prepare our garnishes to be able to decorate the tops of the squares. We're going to decorate the top of these squares with some pumpkin seeds and some toasted coconut, and you're going to be amazed at how easy it is to toast them. It's so simple, but it just gives them a really cool kind of rustic color to them, and it really brings out the flavor. So we're going to start by toasting up a little bit of coconut, and we're just going to take our hot pan here and then drop in just a little bit of butter. Dump in our coconut, give it just a dash of salt. Oh, that already smells so good. And you can see those little pieces of coconut already starting to turn a little bit brown. So we're just gonna mix this around and keep our eye on it because we don't want them to burn. Okay, I think that looks great, done. So go ahead and transfer all of these to a bowl here so they can cool. So now we'll do our pumpkin seeds, and we'll just drop in a little bit more butter. Dump in our seeds, a little dash of salt, and again, just spread those seeds around. And their natural green color is really beautiful, but you'll see that as they start to cook, they turn a really cool, little bit more of a yellowy, mustardy green. And you can smell that butter toasting. I cannot wait to snack on these. They are almost done. They're starting to pop. You can see the butter that is starting to brown as well, so we don't want to go too much longer. There, now we have a beautiful assortment of green and brown. So those are done. I'll transfer those to our bowl so they can cool. So simple yet so gourmet. Those are gonna look beautiful on our squares. Now we're gonna prepare our little carrot rosettes, and we're gonna simply take our carrot shredder, and first we want to get rid of the outer layer. And now we're just gonna make some nice, long, thick strands of carrot. We're gonna make about 16 of these. So these will become our beautiful rosettes on the top of our squares. So I've taken our cake out of the fridge, and it is time to get it out of the pan. So I'm gonna simply run a knife just along these two edges that didn't have parchment paper, just to make sure it comes out nice and easy. And then simply lift on both edges and transfer it to our cutting board. That is beautiful. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this into 16 pieces. So I'll first cut in half one direction. There we go. Lift that knife up. Excellent. And now we'll go this direction, cutting in half, just eyeballing it. And now we're going to cut each of these squares into squares. I'm secretly hoping I'm going to mess one up so that I can have an oops that I can sample. And now it's time to start decorating. So we're going to start with a little bit of our toasted coconut. And we're just going to take a little handful, and we're going to place just a little mound right here in the middle of the square. There we go. Just the beautiful, slightly toasty brown color of the coconut really stands off from the white of the frosting. Then we're going to take one of our carrot slices, and starting on the largest end, we're just going to start rolling it in our fingers into a roll. Now that we have that little circle, we're going to place that right in the middle of our square. Just gently push that down into the frosting. Isn't that beautiful? I hope you're not disappointed by how simple this technique is, because it really looks amazing for something that's this easy. So now we've got our flower in the center. We want to add some leaves. So I'm just going to pick out a couple of our toasted pumpkin seeds, and I'm going to place them 2 on one side, and then I'm going to put 1 on the opposite side. And this is to make it less symmetrical and a little more natural looking. Now we'll go ahead and repeat the same process on each of our squares. To make it a little quicker, I'm going to go ahead and do some assembly line by putting coconut on all of the squares at once. Well, these look so beautiful, and I am so proud. We're going to go ahead and transfer them to our pretty serving plate and gently scoop them on. Look how thick that frosting is. I cannot wait to try one. Now that is a beautiful tray that is ready for any celebration or special occasion, or just a craving for a carrot cake. Now for the moment I have been waiting for all afternoon, And I am starving, so this is gonna be extra delicious. Go ahead and get a nice bite with the cream cheese frosting and that perfectly spiced and naturally sweetened cake. Wow, that was worth the wait. I'm getting just that moist and delicious cake that has the taste of carrot, as well as the coconut, as well as those really sweet plump raisins. And then I get just that creamy layer of cream cheese and whipped cream that's on top. That is absolutely delicious. And I can enjoy all those flavors because they're not overpowered by white processed sugar that so many carrot cakes have. I love this, and I'd be proud to serve it to anyone, and I'd feel really good knowing I was giving them something that was actually healthy and good for them. And now for the sugar comparison I promised. I have a traditional piece of carrot cake here that is sweetened with processed white sugar and is also baked with white flour. I've reduced the number slightly to account for the size difference. The traditional carrot cake has about 64 grams of sugar, which is equal to about 16 sugar cubes. My recipe has about 12 grams of sugar, which is from the maple syrup, which is equivalent to about 3 sugar cubes, and I painted them brown just for the visual's sake. Clearly my recipe is the healthier option, especially if you're looking for a delicious carrot cake that's going to have all those classic spices and flavors, but isn't going to upset your stomach or your digestion afterwards, or that's going to spike your glycemic load or glycemic index, or possibly give you a sugar headache later. But I certainly don't want to knock traditional carrot cakes because in moderation they can be enjoyed as well. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen today. If you'd like to see the recipe card for this recipe as well as more healthy recipes, please visit my website, gentletummy.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you know someone who would love to have a healthy carrot cake recipe, please share this video with them. Bye for now.